What's up, Aries? So we got a card description that's pulled from the Herbal Astrology Oracle deck by Adriana Ayala, and then we'll go into the actual reading itself. So this particular card is Sage with the subtext of blessing. Blessing, purification, invocation, sacred gift, spiritual cleansing, reassembling, emotional body, mystical sight. The genus name Salvia comes from Latin salvare, meaning to save, an apt name for this powerful protective herb. Various species of sage can be found throughout the world, and this card embodies the spirit of this precious and ancient plant. First Nations peoples, Native Americans have used sage ceremonially for thousands of years for inner and outer purification. Sage is regarded as a panacea and employed as a medicine to heal against many ills. It's also used as an offering in sweat lodges, wrapped around sacred objects and placed in medicine pouches, and sage is one of the primary herbs for smudging. Smudging is a sacred ritual practice amongst Native Americans. It is similar to smoke lampias practiced in Central and South American traditions, where smoke is brushed along the body with the hands, feathers, or ritual objects to bless, purify, and invoke ancestral spirits. In ancient Egypt, sage was used as a remedy for disease and epidemics like the plague. In pharaonic tombs, it was used as one of the main ingredients in embalming, and it was considered an essential herb for entrance to the afterlife. The ancient Romans regarded it as a holy plant, and prior to picking it, they would enact a ceremony to ask its permission. A special knife was used to collect its leaves and stems. Like herbs ruled by the moon, sage is a vibrationally powerful plant that deeply influences the electromagnetic field. The moon houses our intuition and emotions, and lunar herbs greatly affect the types of our subconscious mind, our emotions, and psyche. Herbs of the moon also rule the gut, and sage is one of those allies that not only sharpens our gut feeling and intuitive gateways, it also heals the gastrointestinal tract. Sage, like the moon card in tarot, is the great this is the guidance portion. Sage, like the moon card in the tarot, is the great portal to the river of life. The silver light of sage grants us the power of insight while we navigate the darkest of hours. Lunar powers of sage remind us to look inward to receive visionary insight from spirit. Don't get overly consumed by the emotional interplay. Allow it to pass like the clouds. Draw upon the inner reserves of your psyche to navigate darkness and become keenly aware of what is causing inner disturbances, fear, and unhappiness. The initiation you are undergoing, although unfamiliar, is a great blessing. Feel yourself cease and reassemble as you break illusions to unearth hidden truths. Surrender, don't stand in your own way. Allow the silvery white light of sage to shatter your illusions, or to shatter illusions as you undergo a great awakening. Okay, so got a few hits, I would say. One, the idea of sage in general. I think you guys, it's kind of self-explanatory in terms of the actual healing that you guys can get from. I suppose I see this is obvious. Let me go ahead and explain the idea of, sage being brushed along, and it has a clearing effect on the energetic body, right? So our energetic imprint has this, it accumulates a lot, and that right there could lead to certain complications. And this isn't a pharmaceutically accepted understanding, but I do believe that this collection, this it could essentially lead to physical ailments in a lot of senses, in a lot of cases. So for sure, I wouldn't say something like use completely switch off your traditional medicine to benefit or to use sage, but maybe use this as a supplement in a way, and that may be something that you really would like to do and would like to experiment with if you are suffering from anything in general, regarding physical ailments, but also just the idea of depression in general. And also, I'll say if you're like suffering from some kind of like depression, or you kind of wake up feeling a bit angsty, you can also sleep with a bowl of fresh salt water under your bed. That's always those are pretty good things in terms of for energy clearing in general. And this idea is, in terms of the idea from sage in general, this is a big card, right? A big undertaking in terms of what could be about to take place, and having that energy really cleansed is going to be something that may very well help you navigate this particular time period that you guys are going in and going through. And be prepared to really have your energetic imprint like tested in a lot of cases, in a lot of ways, but also be prepared in having tools and using tools, right? In terms of actually energy clearing in general, you should most certainly get into that concept. It can come through the form of like, meditation and things like that, but it can also come in the form of just actually like just being more energetically aware with different practices. For instance, like feeling, particularly like there's particular like books that may help walk you through some energetic practices. But just an example, like if you go near particularly a tree, and you can kind of like practice feeling the tree without actually like feeling the tree's energetics, or the imprint of the tree. So, and that could come in the form of basically you just activating your I'm going off the rails a bit, but you basically activate your hand chakra, and it will like literally, you'll be able to you should be able to sense it, or you should be able to start practicing sensing it. But like I said, going off the rails, I'm gonna in terms of the lesson that wasn't so one of the lessons that wasn't so obvious, I would say, in terms of actually just the card itself, is the idea that sage is this is a big card, right? And sage is like a lot of I'm seeing this particular idea of sage being one of the primary, and maybe even like the people who are more niche in terms of with different energy clearing things. They may not see the sage as so special in a lot of cases, but people, that idea I would say is kind of misguided. I would say definitely we should work on overusing sage, and promoting some kind of like unhealthy dynamic between farmers trying to grow sage in the place of whole forest and things of that nature. That'd be a problem. But in general, the idea of it being first is something that really stuck out to me, because when we talk about the Aries archetype, it is first. It's the first up. And this idea of sage is something to where more niche people may not quite see the understanding there. But the simple fact that sage was kind of an introduction into this world, that's what's really special about sage, right? Like it doesn't have to necessarily be something that oh, like this is like overused and stuff like that, is the the fact of it being the introduction into this world, into this life, in terms of actually understanding a lot of the plants and the tools that we have as humans. It's powerful, extremely powerful. And if you have been kind of like dissuaded from maybe like studying more less niche figures, like I'm thinking about like things like uh, like the primary bands that are out there. Who is it that like you're like somebody at some point somebody said to me, I said, oh, Linkin Park's pretty cool or something. This was back when I was like in middle school or something like that, and they were asking if I knew any bands, and they said, oh, everybody knows that band. And it was, and that's if you felt kind of dissuaded from understanding or really digging in more about different figures, or if you kind of see that that parallel in another figure or place or something like that, start to dig into the foundations there. Start to try to understand what you're looking at, because you may be able to draw lessons that other people may not quite draw lessons from, right? Not to say that these figures are all good. Like we know that, for instance, like some of our founding forefathers might have owned slaves, but that doesn't mean that they don't have valuable lessons to teach us when we study their history, right? We should understand that, and that's those things have real meaning for us, real impacts on our lives and our understanding of life and how we can particularly do things. Not that we necessarily have to do things the same way. And also this idea of blades. I was really kind of drawn to this idea of how there would be a sacred, a sacred knife that was used to collect the leaves and the stems from sage. But the idea was that blade in general, using those blades are not. For one of the reasons why I was drawn to it was because the Aries archetype also rules over blades and weapons of all kinds. But the idea of a blade actually being used in this ritual, it seemed fitting in terms of understanding like this idea of what I'm talking about, with maybe you going in and studying more about the more pronounced figures in society that some people view as like over talked about, and starting to understand deeper into them. This concept in general, it requires an element of really just being sharp and being able to go to and being willing to simply be abrasive whenever you need to say no, I like this particular aspect about that person or whatever, and that could be a powerful thing in terms of in general. And also the idea of being able to lead the way in general, right? To be one of those figures, it's another huge thing. It's another powerful place in general in terms of actually being able to be first and being willing to go on that journey. It's not for the weak-hearted, right? Pioneers. You can never be as good as a pioneer, right? No matter what I accomplish in my life, the people who came before me, they hold a special place that I'll never hold, right? I wouldn't be without them. So that's kind of an idea there in terms of the concept of being willing, and just another marker for that Aries archetype and to put it to use in this particular form. And that's I think that's gonna be it. I feel like I kind of went off the rails with the whole hand tracker thing, but we'll talk later. In any case, have a good week, Aries.